I'm Susie, a 35-year-old office worker. My family consists of my mom and my younger sister Mary. Dad passed away from an illness 3 years ago. Since graduating from college, I've been focused solely on my career. And before I knew it, I reached this age. During this time, many of my colleagues got married, and to be honest, I felt a bit anxious. I even went to parties when invited but never met the right person. I thought, who would want to be with someone as uninteresting as me? In fact, at one of these parties, a man said something along those lines to me, so I decided there was no need to force myself to find a partner. But Mom didn't understand this mindset. "Susie, when are you going to get married? You're well past 30 now. Don't just focus on work. Think about your own happiness, too." "I know, Mom, but I'm busy with work, and I don't have time for this. Please, don't call me about this anymore." Mom worried about me not getting married even after turning 30. Started calling more often. I appreciated her calls, but felt sorry that I had nothing to report. Several times, Mom sent me photos of single men she knew, but I wasn't keen on marrying just for the sake of it and was considering staying single. That's when I met Walter, who would later become my fiancé, at a cafe I happened to visit. "You come to this cafe quite often, don't you? Do you like places like this?" "Huh?" Startled, I shrank back when an unfamiliar man approached me. "Yes, well, I've been a bit tired from work lately. I come here for some comfort." Then Walter responded with a smile. "Really? I started coming here too, looking for some relief from work fatigue." I was delighted that he responded with a smile to my uninteresting story. Turns out, Walter works for a major company and is considered a promising future leader. He said it's nice to be appreciated, but the pressure had been tiring him out lately, which is why he started coming to this calm and soothing cafe. That encounter led to us dating, and since he worked for a major company, he always took me to fancy restaurants, and he paid for everything every time. "You don't always have to take me to fancy places. A casual spot would be just fine." Worried about his financial situation, I couldn't help but say that. "Don't worry, I work for a big company and my salary is good, so don't think about it." Though he confidently said this every time, having never dated someone like him, I was initially bewildered. However, after half a year, Walter began to change. He started forgetting his wallet more often. "Oh, sorry. I left my wallet in my desk at work again. Can you cover for me this time?" Sure, that's okay." I ended up paying again, which made me wonder if he was doing it on purpose. But every time, Walter looked genuinely sorry, and a month later, he paid back everything I had covered. So I decided he must have just been forgetful. After 2 years of dating, we decided to get married. There was so much to do, like choosing the venue and the guest list. I had already told my family about the wedding, and Mom cried tears of joy. When I mentioned the family meeting, my sister Mary said she wouldn't attend. Her reason was that she wasn't interested in my fiancé. "He's your fiancé, right? I bet he's just another dull, unremarkable guy. I don't want to waste my precious time on someone like that." That's what she said. Mom was more upset about this comment than I was. "What are you saying? Your sister is getting married. It's only natural for family to attend a family meeting." Eventually, Mom persuaded her, and Mary reluctantly agreed to attend. At that time, I had no idea that this family meeting would drastically change the course of our lives. The meeting was set to take place in a suite of a fancy hotel recommended by my boss. Having never been in such a luxurious hotel, I was nervous just being there. While being shown to the room by the staff, his parents hadn't arrived yet. Mom was excitedly waiting, but as usual, Mary looked bored, fiddling with her phone and even yawning loudly. As we were waiting and sipping on drinks, he and his parents walked in. Sorry we're late. We got caught in traffic, which delayed our arrival. The moment he entered the room, Mary, who had been idly playing with her phone, completely changed her demeanor.
No way! Is that really my sister's fiancé? He's so handsome. Why didn't you tell me sooner?
Her eyes sparkled as she looked at Walter.
Nice to meet you. I'm Mary, her sister. Thank you for always taking care of my sister.
She approached Walter and greeted him in a sweet tone. Mary, don't be rude. Go, sit down. Mom reprimanded her, and I thought Mary would take her seat. But then I witnessed an unbelievable scene. Wait, why are you sitting next to Walter? That's where Walter's dad and mom are supposed to sit. You should sit over here. Mary had sat next to Walter, pushing aside his parents. His parents were shocked, their eyes wide open. What are you doing? It's a family meeting, and you're being so disrespectful. If you don't stop, I'll have you leave this room. Reluctantly, Mary moved back to her original seat. I apologized to his parents. The family meeting began amidst a heavy atmosphere. Still, Mary's interest was solely on Walter. She asked him inappropriate questions like his salary since he worked at a major company and kept commenting on how handsome he was. Despite the delicious food in front of us, I couldn't taste any of it because of Mary. Every time Mary asked something inappropriate, I apologized to his parents repeatedly. Such exchanges happened repeatedly. Honestly, I feared the engagement might be called off. But as we were leaving, his parents said they looked forward to our future together, which relieved me. Mary, what were you thinking? Because of you, we were terribly embarrassed at the family meeting. You're definitely not invited to the wedding. Yeah, I'm so embarrassed too. I regret inviting someone who brought such shame. In the car ride home, Mom and I firstly criticized Mary's behavior, but Mary herself seemed unbothered.
Well, but if you marry Walter, he'll be my brother-in-law, right? We'll have a long relationship, so we should get along. Shouldn't we? I don't think what I did today was wrong.
I was astonished by Mary's lack of apology or remorse and how she justified her actions. As soon as I got home, I called Walter to apologize for my sister's behavior. Walter laughed it off, but I was utterly embarrassed. After that, we started discussing the wedding as usual, and at the time, I had no idea that I had already fallen into my sister's trap. That day, we had a wedding planning meeting, and I was supposed to meet Walter after work, but he didn't show up at the agreed time. But he wasn't answering his phone. This is strange. Did something happen? Finally, he answered the phone about 30 minutes after our scheduled time. Sorry, a sudden meeting came up and I can't make it. Can you go ahead with the discussion without me? Again? You couldn't make it last time because of work. Can't you do something about the meeting? I can't leave an important meeting, sorry, but that's how it is. With that, Walter hung up. Normally, he would never do this and would inform me in advance if he couldn't make it. But recently, he's been canceling after the agreed time more frequently. Unbeknownst to me, Mary had been in contact with Walter. At the family meeting, Mary took a liking to Walter. I was aware they had exchanged contact information then, despite Mom's warnings.
What are you talking about? If someone in the family falls ill, who will contact Walter? We're going to be family, so it's okay to exchange phone numbers, right?
She justified it by saying this and exchanged numbers right in front of me. Indeed, we don't have Dad, and most families do exchange phone numbers. So I thought it was okay to exchange numbers for that reason, but I should have been more suspicious of Mary. Apparently, she had been waiting outside Walter's company. However, she couldn't meet the Walter she was looking for.
Walter, it's Mary. I just happened to be in front of your company. Would you like to have dinner together?
You're here now? That's troubling. I'm not at the company. I'm out on business. Maybe we can meet at a cafe nearby later? Thus, the two started having secret meetings without me. Initially, Walter was bewildered, but he was charmed by her bubbly personality and cute appearance. Soon they started calling each other by familiar names. Even when Walter visited my family home, it didn't change. Hey, I really don't like you calling my fiancé like that. Can you tone it down a bit? I asked Mary to refrain, feeling quite upset. What's the problem? She's a fun and friendly person. There's no need to get mad over something like that, right? No matter how disrespectful Mary was, Walter didn't seem to mind. In fact, their closeness was becoming concerning. But that wasn't all. During one of our meetings, Walter suddenly asked me, "Hey, I want to ask you something."
What do you want to know?
What kind of job does Mary have? And what about her annual income and savings?
Why are you asking about Mary's income and savings?
I don't even know that. I was taken aback by his sudden interest in Mary's job, income, and savings. Obviously, I didn't have an answer. And my distrust of Walter grew. With mixed feelings, the wedding day approached. And then, on what was supposed to be a joyous day, my wedding day, I experienced an unimaginable betrayal. It happened on the eve of the wedding. As I was about to sleep, preparing for the next day, Mary called me. Her words left me in disbelief.
I have something to tell you.
I'm getting married to Walter tomorrow. What? That doesn't make any sense. Explain yourself. I raised my voice in response to her absurd statement.
That's right. Walter and I are getting married. He realized I'm cuter and I'm a better woman than you, so he decided to switch to me.
It turned out they had been developing a relationship behind my back. Their close distance and familiar manner with each other now made sense. They were secretive when using their phones around me, hiding screens and getting angry when I asked, claiming they were just business messages. I had found it strange that he would smile mischievously while supposedly handling work messages. Now, it all made sense. The discomfort I had felt finally aligned. But what Mary was doing was inexcusable. It was stealing. Unaware or uncaring of my shock, Mary continued.
By the way, you are planning your wedding at the Fiancé Hotel tomorrow, right? It would be a waste to cancel the reservation and pay the cancellation fee, so I'll use it instead of you.
Excuse me? Not content with just stealing my fiancé, she planned to have her wedding at the hotel we had reserved. It was a famous hotel where many celebrities had their weddings, a hotel I had secretly longed for. The thought of marrying Walter there had filled me with happiness and excitement. To have not only my fiancé, but also my dream taken away by my sister plunged me into utter despair. I called Walter for confirmation, and to my dismay, he was currently with Mary. I prefer someone bright and charming like Mary over a quiet person like you. Walter, laughing, said he preferred someone bright and charming like Mary over a quiet person like me. It was then I realized Walter's true nature. I never thought the man I believed was kind could be so rotten at the core. So I cut ties with both Mary and Walter. Crying, I told Mom about the broken engagement. Mom was furious and tried to call Mary, but she had already turned off her phone.
Mom, I'm sorry. I thought I could finally make you happy. I never expected this to happen.
Unable to contain my emotions in front of Mom, I broke down in tears. Mom simply held me in her arms without a word, which only made me cry harder. Of course, I had to explain to relatives that the wedding was off and why. Everyone condemned Mary's actions.
My niece stealing someone else's fiancé? What kind of nerve does she have? I need to give her a piece of my mind,
said my aunt, who had always doted on me. But their disapproval didn't change the fact that my sister had stolen my fiancé. I felt so ashamed as I explained the situation to friends and colleagues, often breaking down in tears. I couldn't help but imagine Mary and Walter happily preparing for their wedding at the hotel I had longed for. Mary, being who she is, must have bragged to all her friends about her wedding the next day. The thought made me feel unbearable regret. On the actual day of the wedding, I imagined them surrounded by friends, celebrating happily. But then on the day of the wedding, an unexpected punishment befell my sister.
What's going on, big sister?
Mary called during the time the ceremony was supposed to be happening.
Why are you calling me? Don't ever contact me again,
I said, about to hang up. But then Mary revealed something shocking.
When I got to the venue, not a single guest was there, and I can't reach Walter at all. What's happening?
No guests had shown up at the venue.
Isn't that your fault? You probably bragged to your friends and told them to definitely come, right? Yes, I did brag to Danielle yesterday, saying they must come, but not a single person showed up.
Bragging like that? Maybe that's why no one came. And who invites guests the day before the wedding? Normally you send invitations and get confirmations.
And more importantly, Walter. I thought he worked for a major company, but it turns out he's a fraudster.
Excuse me? I was shocked when I heard this. Walter had always claimed to be an employee of a major company with a promising future. And now, a fraudster? He had taken the money Mary gave for the wedding expenses and disappeared. I learned that he had done the same to several other women. He had been borrowing money from many women under various false pretenses, like needing funds for a new business or his mother's care. Each victim was swindled out of around $20,000, and they filed police reports against him. The truth about him being a fraudster was revealed on the wedding day when several of his victims unexpectedly showed up at the venue. They demanded compensation for their mental anguish and repayment of their lost money. That's when Mary found out Walter was a fraudster. I remember him asking me for money too. He said he might be going overseas for work and needed money for furniture, but I didn't lend him any because I didn't have much savings at the time.
When he approached me, he talked about going independent and moving abroad. He asked for $20,000 for initial expenses.
So the other victims were told similar stories and lent him money. He always used sweet words, promising a life free of financial worries after marriage to gain their trust and borrow money. The money he had been using on me was probably extracted from these women. He must have been sweet-talking women like that, getting them to support him financially. Hearing this, I was relieved that I didn't lend him any money when he asked.
The police came to the wedding venue and he was arrested for fraud. What about my wedding?
Mary complained, upset that her wedding was ruined.
What can I say?
You stole the man I was going to marry, and it turns out he was a fraudster. I'm actually relieved I didn't marry him. Thanks for taking him off my hands. Just yesterday, I was devastated by Mary stealing my fiancé. But today, I feel grateful she did. Mom, who had been listening, was initially shocked but now seemed amused. Mom in a voice that was just audible enough for Mary to hear.
That's what you get for stealing someone's fiancé.
That's what she said.
Wait, what about the payment for the wedding venue? I was deceived, so I shouldn't have to pay, right?
Mary asked. Excuse me? The wedding expenses are your responsibility, regardless of being deceived. I'm no longer involved. I had already informed the planner that Walter and Mary would be having the wedding, so the payment inevitably falls on them. You get a bill from the venue later. Even if you cancel on the day, you'll have to pay the full amount, so take care of it. The cost of the wedding was about $50,000, a significant amount. I knew Mary couldn't pay it, but Mom firmly said she wouldn't help her this time, especially considering the trouble Mary had caused. Since Walter was in custody, he obviously couldn't pay, so the bill would go to Mary.
Wait, I'm not good at saving money. I can't pay $50,000. Can you cover it for me, big sister?
What are you talking about? Neither Mom nor I will help you. Just accept it and pay the $50,000.
It's impossible. I can't do it. Please, help me. I promise I won't do anything like this again.
Despite Mary's repeated pleas and cries over the phone, I felt no sympathy. Mary then went to see Walter in jail to ask him to pay for the wedding, but being incarcerated for fraud, he couldn't pay. So Mary ended up having to pay the full $50,000. Without any money left, she came to our house.
Mom, help me. I've been evicted from my apartment. I have no savings. Let me stay here for a while.
Normally, a parent might want to help their child in such a situation, but Mom's response was different.
Help you?
A woman who steals another's man is no daughter of mine. Sort out your own problems. With that, Mom refused to let her inside the house. Mary, who had thought Mom would be on her side, was left crying and begging at the door. But Mom was unmoved. Eventually, Mary had to find an old, run-down apartment to live in. Mary tried asking relatives and friends for loans, but given her reputation and attitude, they were fed up with her. She became a laughingstock, looked down upon my relatives and friends. Once I received a letter from Walter in prison asking for help. He had no one to turn to and no money. Of course, I had no obligation to help him, so I threw the letter away and, considering my safety, decided to move elsewhere. 3 years later, I married my boss from the same company. I never thought I'd marry again, but he supported me when I was down. I never imagined that my soulmate was so close. He even booked the fancy hotel I originally wanted for our wedding, and we had a grand celebration. Blessed by many friends, relatives, and colleagues, I felt truly happy. Most importantly, I could finally give Mom peace of mind and felt genuinely relieved. I'm determined to keep this happiness and work hard for our future.